Okay, now I think it's okay. Okay, ready to start? Okay, so today is August 11th, 2018, and we'll start with the homage to the Buddha. So 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, good morning, everybody. Okay, so we have been reading through the Anguttara Nikaya. This is the numerical discourses of the Buddha, and we now are in the book of the threes. So these are suttas in which each of the suttas is based upon a scheme involving 3 items. And so I'm picking up now with sutta number 15, called the Pacetana Sutta. And I find this sutta interesting because of the simile. The main point of the sutta, sort of the message, is a rather simple one, but the simile, it's rather interesting. And so this is given in the form of, you call this almost a jataka story, a story about the distant past. And it involves a king whose name is given here as Pacetana. And so this king assigned the task to his chariot maker he told him that 6 months from now there will be a battle. Can you make me a new pair of wheels for his chariot? And so the chariot maker said, I can. And then in 5 months and I guess 24 days, the chariot maker had finished 1 wheel. And so then the king told the chariot maker, 6 days from now there'll be the battle. I need that pair of wheels for my chariot. Okay, and then the chariot maker said that I just finished 1 wheel. It took me almost 6 months to make. And now I have just 6 days to make a 2nd wheel. But the king said, can't you finish that 2nd wheel for me in 6 days? And the chariot maker said, I can do that. And so over the next 6 days, he finished the 2nd wheel and brought the new pair of wheels to the king and said, this is the pair of wheels that I've made for you. And the king looked at them, and the 2 wheels looked exactly the same. And so he said to his chariot maker, why did it take you almost 6 months to make one of those wheels, and you could finish the 2nd wheel in just 6 days? What were you doing? Were you dragging on? Going out and playing with your friends and enjoying yourself? Why did it take so long to make the 1st wheel when in 6 days you could make the 2nd wheel? You should have been able to make both wheels together in 12 days, and then you have had a lot of free time to do other things. But the chariot maker said to the king, even though these 2 wheels look exactly the same, there's still a big difference between them. The king said, I don't see any difference. Show me the difference. Okay, then the chariot maker rolled the wheel that took 6 days to finish, and then the wheel rolled as far as the momentum carried it, then it wobbled and fell to the ground. Okay, then the wheel that took almost 6 months to complete, when the chariot maker gave that a push, then it rolled as far as the momentum carried it, and it remained standing there, not tilting to either side, not wobbling, not falling down. Okay, so when the chariot maker gave this demonstration to the king, then the king was amazed and asked, why is it that the wheel that took 6 days to finish, after it rolled ahead, it wobbled and fell to the ground, while the wheel that took almost 6 months to complete rolled as far as the momentum carried it and then remained standing there as if fixed in place? And then the chariot maker replied, and sort of this is the key to the simile. He said, the wheel that took 6 days to finish has a rim that is crooked, faulty, and defective. It has spokes that are crooked, faulty, and defective, and the nave is crooked, faulty, and defective. So even though everything in that wheel looks perfect to the naked eye, to an amateur's eye, but somebody who is a professional, who understands the construction of a wheel, would be able to look at this wheel and see that it's full of faults. And so this is the reason why that wheel rolled as far as the momentum carried it, and then it fell to the ground. But the wheel that took almost 6 months to complete has a rim that is faultless, spokes that are faultless, and a nave that is faultless. And somebody who is a professional wheel maker would be able to look at this wheel and think, this is wonderful and marvelous, a magnificent wheel, completely free of all faults. And so that is the reason why when it finished winding down its momentum, it stood still and remained as if fixed in place. Okay, now the Buddha brings in the identification of these people. So this is what makes this little story a Jataka story, a story about the Buddha's past lives. He says that you might think that the chariot maker was someone else, but you should not think in such a way, for on that occasion, I myself was the chariot maker. And then I was skilled in crookedness, faults, and defects in wood, and I was skilled, I'm adding this on my own, on how to remove the crookedness, faults, and defects in wood. Okay, but now I'm the perfectly enlightened Buddha, and I'm still skilled in crookedness, faults, and defects, but not in wood, but rather in actions. Skilled in faults in actions of the body, skilled in faults of an action of speech, skilled in faults in the activities of the mind. And so any bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, any monk or nun, who has not abandoned the faults in the actions of body, speech, and mind, has fallen down from this dharma and discipline, just as the wheel that had been finished in 6 days fell to the ground. Whereas any monk or nun who has abandoned faults of body, speech, and mind, then is firmly established in this dharma, just as the wheel that was finished in 6 days remains standing in place as if it was firmly established there. And so then comes the sort of message for those of us in later generations who still have to train ourselves, we will abandon crookedness, faults, and defects in bodily action, will abandon crookedness, faults, and defects in speech or verbal action, will abandon crookedness, faults, and defects in the activities of the mind. So that is the way you should train yourselves. So the message is quite simple and straightforward, but it's an interesting sutta because of the simile and the Jataka story. And so what is meant by crookedness, faults, and defects of the body, of speech, and mind? What are they? Actually, the answer is quite simple. So what is meant by faults, defects, crookedness of body, speech, and mind? Nobody has any idea? Carolyn. Stephen. Yeah. Other expression that might be used? Well, sankharas can be good or bad, wholesome and unwholesome. Okay, unwholesome. More specific expression that is used in the text. No, it's not mentioned here. Okay, so you could say the 10 unwholesome deeds, and of those 10 unwholesome deeds, some of them are bodily, some are verbal, some are mental. So we could say unwholesome deeds of body, speech, and mind. Very simple. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the next sutta is called the Unmistaken. So this is very important sutta, especially for monastics, because this sutta is speaking about what is called laying the groundwork for the destruction of the taints of the asavas. Yeah, the expression that's used here that gives the name to the sutta is the unmistaken way. And the Pali word is the apanika patipada. Then the commentary gives a number of similes. The unmistaken way, the definite way, the emancipating way, the essential way, the exquisite way, the unopposed way, the conducive way, the way in accord with the Dhamma. Okay, but it's said for those who are practicing the monastic life, the goal, the aim for the practice is the destruction of the asavas. So that marks the attainment of liberation, the attainment of arhatship. So what are the taints? What are the asavas? Anybody remember what they are? Husband? I had the other microphone. Jason has it.
Craving for sensual pleasure, continued craving for continued existence, and ignorance.
Right. Okay, so the three asavas, the three, here is translated taints, are the craving for sensual pleasures, craving for continued existence, and avijja, ignorance. And they're called asavas. The word asava means literally things that flow. And so they could be seen as things that flow into the mind, that flow up into the active stage of the mind from the deep underlying base of the mind. And so the word asava is not the word that was original to the Buddha. So we find asava is also mentioned in Jainism. And since Jainism is older than Buddhism, it's probably the case that the Buddha would have taken that word over from the Jains. And it might have been common to a number of the sort of spiritual communities that were flourishing in the Buddha's time. So they all saw that the defilements are things that flow into the mind, and they have as their objective to eradicate, to eliminate these defilements that flow into the mind. And so what distinguishes them is not so much the aim, but the discovery of the method that will be effective in eradicating the defilements. Okay, so here the Buddha is speaking about the groundwork for the destruction of the taints. So this is not yet the advanced practice, but the fundamental practice that has to be securely established in order to gain the destruction of the taints. Okay, so the Buddha mentions three things that constitute this unmistaken way, or the groundwork. So one is guarding the doors of the sense faculties. The second is moderation in eating. And the third is being intent on, in Pali it's called jagarya, which we translate here as wakefulness. Okay, so the first of these is guarding the doors of the sense faculties. Now we've met this. This is a stock passage that occurs over and over in the suttas. So it's an integral part of the monastic training. And so the reason that this plays such an important part of the training is because where does craving arise? It comes into the mind, but how does the mind get that stimulation for craving to arise in the mind? Eyes, only the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. So the 6 sense faculties. And so especially it's attractive objects that will stimulate craving. And craving appears in the asavas twice as craving for sense pleasures, craving for continued existence. But with the input from the sense faculties, it's not so much craving for existence that is prominent, but the craving for sensual pleasures. So that is what gives food or nourishment to the craving for sensual pleasures. And so for monastics, it's especially important to control the sense faculties. And they're compared to doors. The text, you can see, uses the expression, doors of the sense faculties. Because it's through these doors, the sense faculties, that objects enter the mind. You know, I would say of the various sense faculties, probably the one that at least initially creates the most trouble for a monastic person. Which do you think? Let me test you in case. Yeah, it's the eyes. Because the strongest form of craving is sexual desire. And the way sexual desire, the sensual desire, gets initiated is through seeing with the eyes. And so the young monk sees the beautiful girl walking down the street or standing at the door of her house with some alms food to offer as he goes on alms round, and then not keeping guard over the doors of the sense faculties, and then looks up, the eyes meet, beautiful smile, and maybe she'll throw back her hair, take the hand, and and then connection is made. And then he'll say, "How are you today?" Or she'll say, "How are you today?" Or "Glad to see you." And then the voice is like a string quartet, very beautiful and lovely. And one thing leads to another. And then the mind is overcome by sensual desire. Okay, so the big obstacle are things that are attractive, lovely, beautiful. Okay, but it's not only the sexual desire, but also, and this is something that we experience in monastic life, because one is not able to enjoy, beautiful sights with the eyes. We don't get to listen to music, beautiful music with the ears. And so of the remaining senses, what is the sense that's going to be stimulated most, that has to be stimulated in some way every day? No. I mean, okay, you're living in a monastery. She pointed to the ear. You're living in the monastery, so what do you hear? Maybe the sound of the other monks chanting in the morning. It's not going to entice one and sort of stimulate great craving. The voice of your teacher droning on with his boring voice. You should do this, you should do that. It's not going to stimulate craving. Yeah, you don't get to smell perfect. Well, you get some incense, but I don't know anybody ever really fell down because of incense burning. So what is the stimulation that's really going to drive the mind crazy during the day? Right, the taste of food. Particularly you live in I have to say, in the monastery you get quite good, tasty food. And so if you lay people, if you really want to enjoy the most delicious food, come and join the monastery, take coordination. Yeah, but this is what happens, is because you're not getting stimulation through the other senses, and so one could start thinking day and night, what's going to be for breakfast tomorrow? After breakfast, what's going to be for lunch today? And then when you get it, You just keep on eating and trying this flavor, that flavor. Oh, today some Sri Lankan people came bringing Sri Lankan dishes. Wow, I haven't had that in a long time. Ah, now some Indian people came bringing Indian dishes. Wonderful. What else do we get? Actually, we don't get much else, but Chinese monastic dishes. And then when Mei Wei takes her vacation, then the food is not as good as when Mei Wei is here. Okay, so it has to guard the sense faculties, especially the eye and the tongue, but all the sense faculties. And it's not only attractive things that can bring stimulation to the mind, but also things that are disagreeable, that are painful, that are afflictive. And so we have agreeable things stimulating craving and desire, and disagreeable things stimulating aversion or dejection or ill will. And so this is maybe the disagreeable things, in my experience, come not so much through the eyes in the monastery, but through the ears. When one wants to sit in meditation and one expects to be able to enjoy complete quiet, then there come inevitable noises. And so as one is sitting there, as the mind settles down, it starts to get concentrated, then dogs start barking, or vehicles go riding by, or a plane flies across the sky, or somebody someplace has the radio too loud or the television too loud. And so this will create aversion in the mind. And so one has to guard the sense faculties. And guarding the sense faculties, really, it doesn't mean literally guarding the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, but guarding the mind in response to the sensory input through eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mental content that arises in the form of ideas, images, reflections, and so on. And so initially the sense input makes a first impression, and that impression is what is rendered here as the mark, sort of the first impression of the object. And then when one grasps upon the mark, then one starts to investigate the details. And that is the details, that is what is rendered here as the features. And so the young monk sees the beautiful girl walking down the street. So the first impression, maybe they passes her, beautiful face. So that is the mark. Then starts looking, the hair is nice, smile is nice, the way of walking is really sexy. Nice clothes. So that would be focusing on the features. Okay, and then if one leaves the eye faculty unrestrained, one doesn't restrain it, then these unwholesome states arise of longing or attraction to the agreeable objects, and then aversion and dejection towards the disagreeable objects. And in exercising restraint over the faculties, what is the factor that plays the primary role? What is the mental factor that plays the primary role? Yeah, say it again. Right, it's mindfulness. And so as one moves about in the world, one has to use mindfulness to keep the senses under control. And I think in today's world we have to do this in a kind of skillful way. Like when you're living in a traditional Buddhist country, if you're living in, say, the countryside, you could walk down these country paths with your eyes always cast down, just looking about 6 feet ahead. But if you go into New York City, have something to attend to, you can't go walking down the street, walking slowly and mindfully, looking just 6 feet, 6 yards ahead. You look a little bit like a freak. And so one has to walk in a somewhat natural manner, but you have to use mindfulness to keep the attention over the responses to the stimulation that comes through the senses. So one uses mindfulness, and then mindfulness always has a twin that goes along with it. What is the twin of mindfulness? Yeah, we call it sampajanya, clear comprehension. So when, say, the mind naturally will take in the sensory inputs, but then you just attend to it with clear comprehension as visible forms, sounds, odors, tastes, and not using clear comprehension, one doesn't fasten upon the impression, the mark, and then dwell upon the features. But one immediately recognizes that the mind has turned to a form, to a sound, to an odor, to a taste, if you're eating. And then one recognizes what has taken place, and one doesn't fasten upon the object. Okay, so this is restraint, guarding the doors of the sense faculties. Okay, so the next practice in laying the foundation for the destruction of the taints, this is moderation. It's called moderation in eating. And the Pali is matanyuta. So matta is a measure or an amount. And the suffix nu comes from the verb janati, to know. So it means knowing the right amount in eating. So it doesn't mean fasting or eating very little, but knowing the right amount to keep the body strong and healthy without overeating. And so there's a stock reflection that's come down in the text. We find it here. So reflecting carefully or wisely, the monk consumes food not for amusement, not for fun, not for intoxication, which doesn't mean that you can become intoxicated by eating normal food, but you don't become intoxicated with different flavors. Well, naturally, of course, people have different preferences for flavors, but it's not the purpose of eating. And not for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, eating so that you fill out your body and then you do your weightlifting and become strong and attractive, but only for the support and maintenance of this body, then for avoiding harm, or more positively for keeping the body healthy, and then for supporting the brahmacharya, the spiritual life. And then one reflects, thus I will end the old feeling. The old feeling is the feeling of hunger, and not arouse a new feeling, that is the feeling of discomfort from overeating. So one eats just the right amount, to keep the body healthy, to allay hunger without stuffing oneself. And in this way I will be healthy and blameless and dwell at ease. So that's how one observes moderation in eating. And even though this is expressed in the formula for a monk, but also it's useful for anybody to follow. And so in this country, people tend to eat too much and to eat the wrong kinds of food. To eat rich, fatty food, or sweets, food that is abounding in sugars, or rich in oily food, and then they get too heavy and their blood vessels get clogged with, what is it that clogs with? Cholesterol, with fat and cholesterol, and they upset the metabolism with too much sweets, and so they're disposed to diabetes. And so one should eat healthy foods in the proper measure. Okay, then the third practice, and this is the ideal practice for one who's devoted, fully devoted to the meditative life. And so this is called the practice of wakefulness. So here it said during the day, the monk spends his time walking back and forth and sitting. So devoting the day to the sitting meditation and walking meditation. And the purpose of that practice is to purify the mind of avaraniya dhamma, obstructive states, obstructive qualities. What would be the obstructive qualities of the mind that one has to overcome for a meditator? Hint, 5. What are the obstructive states? Kenneth? 5 hindrances, right. What are the 5 hindrances? No. Bowie. Take the microphone. Take the microphone.
It's great. You will meet that
Okay.
sleep, sloth, torpor, and restlessness and doubt.
Okay, the first one, precisely, what is it?
Last, abhijja, no, raga. It's
what?
It's similar to greed.
It's similar to greed, but there's a precise word.
Chandaraga, that I don't know how to say it in English.
Wow.
Yeah, desire.
I want the exact expression.
No.
Okay, Kenneth got it. Okay, continue with the second. What is the second?
Ill will.
Okay, that's correct. That's correct. Third?
Sloth, torpor.
Okay, sloth and torpor. The fourth?
Restless.
Restlessness, and it goes with another one.
Kukucha. Remorse.
Yeah, okay, restlessness and remorse. And then the fifth?
Then doubt.
Okay, doubt. Okay, so the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, it's kamachanda, something very specific. Then ill will. Then sloth and torpor, that's tina-mita. Also, I would render this dullness and drowsiness. And then the fourth is restlessness and remorse or regret. Then the fifth is doubt. So those are the main obstructive states. Okay, so the monk spends his time walking back and forth and sitting, purifying the mind of obstructive states during the day. Okay, then the first watch of the night, again he spends walking back and forth and sitting, purifying the mind of obstructive states. Then, of course, he has to sleep. So the middle watch of the night, and this, what's the description here? He doesn't flop down and think, now I can sleep. But he lies down mindfully on the right side in what is called the lion's posture. You ever see a lion sleeping? So I imagine the way it is that the lion lies down on its side and it puts one foot over the other. And then, this is important, lying down mindful, with mindfulness and with clear comprehension, and then noting in his mind the idea of rising. So in the Buddha's time now, we have a very convenient, I just take my alarm clock, set it for a particular time, go to sleep. When the time comes, then the alarm clock goes bang, bang, and I turn it off and go back to sleep. But in the Buddha's time, you don't have alarm clocks, so one makes the and they don't even have clocks, but you make the determination that as soon as I feel that I've gotten enough sleep, I'll wake up and then resume the meditation. So one sleeps in the middle watch of the night, and then in the last watch of the night, again, one spends that period walking back and forth and sitting, purifying the mind of the obstructive states. And what are the 3 watches of the night? This is just approximation, since there were not clocks in the Buddha's time. And I have to judge from northern India when it starts to get dark, say 7 p.m., probably till 10 p.m. would be the first watch of the night. Then maybe the middle watch, we could say, would be from 10 p.m. to maybe 3 a.m. But what one finds when one is doing long-term meditation over extended period, that the need for sleep diminishes, so then one could reduce it even to 4 hours or 3 hours. So it could be 10 to 2. But we'll give him an extra hour, so 10 to 3 a.m., then gets up at 3 a.m., and then the last watch of the night could be from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Okay, so that is the practice for one who is... The first 2 practices, you could say, should be observed by monastics all the time. And this is the practice for one who's completely dedicated to the meditative life. But even for monastics who are engaged in other activities, one should at least have a period in the evening and in the early morning devoted to the meditation. And even for lay people who want to practice diligently, they should have period in the morning and in the evening, or at least in one time of the day, for the meditation. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, so let's move on. Okay, more on bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, we won't. Okay, again, more on bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, mental misconduct. Okay, here we have another simile, sutta based on a simile. Here, a shopkeeper. And so I've always found it interesting how the Buddha devises these similes based on so many practical spheres of life that as a royal prince he would not have experienced himself. But he just knows so much about these ordinary ways of life. Okay, so a shopkeeper, having three factors, a shopkeeper is incapable of generating a profit or of increasing the wealth that he's already acquired. What three? He doesn't apply himself diligently to work in the morning, in the middle of the day, or in the evening. Okay, so possessing three factors, a monk is incapable of achieving a wholesome state. That would be something like a state of jhana, or insight knowledge, or a path and fruit not yet attained, or of increasing the wholesome state already attained. So the monk does not diligently apply himself to a samadhi nimitta, to an object of concentration in the morning, in the middle of the day, or in the evening. And the expression that's used here in the Pali is samadhi nimitta. Where is it? You can see it here, samadhi nimitta. Now, in later Buddhism, that is in the Pali commentaries, the word nimitta comes to take on the meaning of some kind of like visual object that appears in meditation, like a light or something like that. But I think in the early Buddhism, in the suttas, the word nimitta is not being used in that technical sense, but just any object on which one focuses the mind, any object of meditation. So if you're doing mindfulness of breathing, then you could say the breath is your samadhi nimitta. If you're doing the loving kindness meditation, then the theme of loving kindness is one's object for developing samadhi. If you're doing the parts of the body, then the parts of the body are one's samadhi nimitta. And so what's important, what's being emphasized here, is the need to diligently apply oneself to an object of concentration, some meditation object for developing samadhi, in the morning, in the middle of the day, or in the evening. Yeah, and then we have a second sutta that uses the simile of the shopkeeper. So this is how a shopkeeper soon attains abundant wealth. So he has keen eyes, he's responsible, and he has benefactors. Okay, so how does the shopkeeper have keen eyes? He knows of any item. If this item is bought in such a price and sold at such a price, it will require this much capital and bring this much profit. Isn't this true? Are there any businessmen here? So I would assume, I've never done business myself, but you buy certain items that you're going to sell, so you have to know that when you sell the items, they'll fetch a higher price than the price at which you purchase them from the wholesale dealer, the supplier. Okay, then you have to be, the translation here is responsible. So what does this mean? That you're skilled in buying and selling goods. And then you have benefactors. I guess this would be what we would now call investors. So people who invest in your shop with the idea of getting some return on it. So the benefactors know this good shopkeeper has keen eyes and is responsible. He's able to support his family and pay us back from time to time. And so they will give loans to him. And so with the understanding that the shopkeeper will be able to pay back the loans along with the interest, and so the benefactor, the investor, will be able to earn money by making loans to the shopkeeper. And so it's said that a monk possessing 3 similar qualities soon attains vast and abundant wholesome qualities. So what are the 3? The monk has keen eyes, is responsible, and has benefactors. So how does the monk have keen eyes? Here the monk understands as it really is. This is suffering, this is its origin, this is its cessation, this is the path. So this indicates that the monk has what kind of quality as a factor of his practice? Exactly. Say it again. Yeah, he has right view. So right view is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. So the monk has the right view or right understanding to guide the practice. Often in the text, when it's said that somebody has understands as it really is, this is suffering, the origin, cessation, and the path, what does it indicate about that person? Usually that's a key to the status of a particular person. Yeah, usually that's an indication that the person is a stream enterer. Here, I'm not sure that it necessarily has that sense. It might, but that's uncertain. But in any case, in order to achieve these vast and abundant wholesome qualities, one has to start off at least with the conceptual right view. Okay, then how is the monk or practitioner responsible? One arouses energy for overcoming the unwholesome qualities and acquiring wholesome qualities. And so in terms of the Noble Eightfold Path, what would this be pointing to? what factor in the Noble Eightfold Path? You arouse energy for abandoning unwholesome qualities and acquiring wholesome qualities. Right. Right. I'm not. Yeah, right effort. Yeah, right effort, yeah. Okay, so this is indicating right effort. Okay, then how does the monk have benefactors? Okay, from time to time, the monk approaches those other monks, the elder monks, who are learned, heirs to the heritage, experts on the Dharma, experts on the discipline, that's the Vinaya. Then this is an interesting phrase, the one that comes next. Experts on the, here I use the translation outlines, but the Pali has the term matika. Yeah, it says that he approaches those monks who are Dhammadharas, who are maintain the Dhamma, Vinayadhara, who uphold and maintain the discipline, and then Matika Dhara. So this is something I think one finds only in the Anguttara Nikaya, not in the other Nikayas. And the Matikas, the outlines, are taken to be kind of almost like summaries or indexes of the teachings. They would be like lists of teachings. Like, to give an example of a matika, we would have the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 4 right efforts, the 4 bases for spiritual power, the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 7 enlightenment factors, the Noble Eightfold Path. So that would be like one matika, a kind of summary of the practical teachings. Another matika might summarize the more theoretical teachings, the 5 aggregates, 12 sense bases, 18 elements. So that might be another matika. And then you fill out the matikas with the items that come under each. So if somebody is developing a matika of the 5 aggregates, you fill it out, and what do you get? In the correct order, the original order. I see so many hands. Yeah. Okay, very good. Exactly in the right order. So material form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations or volitional formations, and consciousness. The 12 sense bases, what are they? Don't be frightened by the number. Okay, Osman? Yeah. Okay, eye and form, ears and sounds. Nose and... Yeah, okay, the nose and aromas or odors, yeah. Okay, the tongue and flavors or tastes. Yeah, okay, the body and tactile objects. Okay, the mind and mental objects. So we have 12 sense bases, and then 18 elements. We're 2/3 of the way there. So to wait, I think maybe we need the other microphone.
positive, negative, and neutral for each sense faculty? Like, no? Okay.
Okay, so Stacy, I think, had her hand up in the back.
So it would be the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body consciousness, and mind consciousness.
Right, yeah. So we take the 12 sense bases, then just add the 6 kinds of consciousness to them. Then we get the 18 elements. 22 faculties. Okay, we won't go into that. So this is just showing how these matikas were developed. And then there's a kind of conjecture amongst the scholars, contemporary scholars, that the matikas might have been like one of the original sources out of which the Abhidhamma developed. In fact, we have the Dhammasangani, which is the first book of the Abhidhamma. It begins with a very extensive matika consisting of 22 triads. The triad means a group of 3 items. For example, wholesome, unwholesome, and indeterminate. And then for feeling, pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neutral feeling. Things associated with pleasant feeling, things associated with painful feeling, things associated with neutral feeling. So 22 triads, then 100 dyads. Dyad means a group of 2 things. Things that are conditioned, things that are unconditioned. Things that are visible, things that are invisible. Things that are to be, things that are roots, things that are not roots. Things that are asavas, things that are not asavas, and so on. Okay, so this is like a third item of learning that appears in the Anguttara Nikaya. So we have the Dhamma, that would be the teachings, the discipline, and the outlines. And so a monk approaches those who are learned in these things and inquires, how is this? What is the meaning of this? And then those elders explain to him what he hasn't heard before, clear up what is obscure, and dispel his perplexity about various perplexing points. So in this way, the monk has benefactors. Okay, so possessing these 3 qualities, a monk soon attains great and vast achievements in wholesome qualities. Okay, so any questions about this? Any perplexing points that one wants cleared up? Okay, let us try to take in the next sutta, which is a very interesting sutta. Okay, so here in this sutta we have a discussion among 3 monks. One is the Venerable Sariputta, who's of course the monk who's foremost in wisdom. Another is a monk called Mahakotita, who is apparently a friend of Venerable Sariputta. Often they have discussions together. And then the third monk we don't hear of very often. His name is Savita. Okay, so these 3 monks come together and they start a discussion. And then the Venerable Sariputta asks the Venerable Savita, he says, friend Savita, there are these 3 kinds of persons found in the world. What are the 3? The body witness, one attained to view, and one liberated by faith. Okay, I won't explain the three types of persons at this point until we finish following the discussion. Since if I were to explain them, then I think I would it's like revealing the plot. What they call it, a spoiler. Okay, so Sariputta asks, which of these three kinds of persons do you consider the most excellent and sublime? And then Savita says, of these three, I consider the one liberated by faith to be the most excellent. For what reason? Because this person's faculty of faith is predominant. Okay, then Sariputta says to Mahakotita, which of these three kinds of persons do you consider the most excellent? And Venerable Mahakotita says, of those three, I consider the body witness to be the most excellent. For what reason? Because this person's faculty of concentration is predominant. And then Mahakotita asks Sariputta, which do you consider the most excellent? And then Sariputta says, I consider the one attained to view to be the most excellent. For what reason? Because this person's faculty of wisdom is predominant. Okay, so you could see we have three types. Okay, the one liberated by faith, for this person, the faculty of faith is the strongest faculty. The body witness, for this person, the faculty of concentration is the strongest. And the one attained to view, for this one, the faculty of wisdom is the strongest. So of these three, let's take a test in the students. How many think the one liberated by faith is the highest of these three persons? Okay, we have one so far. Okay. The body witness, the one with the strongest faculty of concentration, who thinks this one is the superior of the three? And then the one attained to view is the one who has predominance of wisdom. Who thinks this person is superior of the three? Okay, I won't count, but most take the one with superior wisdom to be the superior. And who thinks of these three that we can't make a definite determination one or the other as being superior? Okay, a few in that category. Okay, so after they have this discussion, then they decide, or then Venerable Sariputta speaks, and he says that we've each explained according to our own ideal. Probably Savita was a strong faith type, Mahakotita had powerful samadhi, and of course we know Sariputta was foremost in wisdom. So Sariputta says, we've each explained according to our own ideal. Let's go to the Buddha and get his view on this. Okay, so they go to the Buddha, and then the Buddha says, it isn't easy to make a definitive declaration and say, of these three kinds of persons, this one is the most excellent and sublime. Okay, the reason is that these three types of persons, first I'll give the general explanation, then we'll see exactly what the Buddha says. of these three types of persons can be anywhere from those who have become stream enterers to those who have entered the path to arhatship without yet realizing the fruit of arhatship. So, the one liberated by faith can be anywhere from a stream enterer to one practicing on the path to arhatship. The one who is the body witness also can be a stream enterer or can be all the ways up to one on the path to arhatship. And the one attained to view can be at any stage from stream enterer to one on the path to arhatship. So there are 8 stages: path to stream entry, stream enterer; path to once returner, path to non-returner, non-returner, path to arhatship, arahat. So these 3 types of persons, let's say anyone from the stream enterer to the person on the path to arhatship, so 6 noble persons, those 6 can be either one liberated by faith, one who is a body witness, one attained to view. And so one who's liberated by faith, here's the Buddha's answer. So one liberated by faith can be one practicing for arhatship, that's on the path to arhatship, while the body witness and one attained to view might be once returners, non-returners, and I would add even stream enterers. And then it's possible that the one who's a body witness could be on the path to arhatship, while one liberated by faith and one attained to view are once returners, non-returners, or even stream enterers. And then it's possible that a person attained to view can be practicing for arhatship, or while one liberated by faith and the body witness are once returners or non-returners. So for this reason, it isn't easy to, in fact, it's not really possible to say that one of those 3 types is superior to the other 2. Because those 3 categories can apply to anyone from the stage of stream enterer to the path to arhatship. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, Kenneth, and please take the microphone.
Bhante, I think I remember probably when we were discussing Pacceka Buddhas, like in a previous discussion, where we talked about like if you become a Buddha, faith-based, it takes so many eons. Yeah. Concentration so many eons, wisdom so many eons, and the way I remember it, the faith that takes the longest, concentration next, and wisdom the least. Is that
yeah,
right?
Except it wasn't concentration; it was energy.
Okay.
This is what is said in the commentaries, that there are 3 kinds of bodhisattvas who have prominence of faith, prominence of energy, prominence of wisdom. The one who has prominence of wisdom can become a perfectly enlightened Buddha after 4 incalculable periods and 100,000 aeons. Then the one who has prominence of, we discussed this the other day, was it energy, who takes 8? Energy is 8. So the one who is most prominent in energy takes 8 incalculables in 100,000 aeons, and the one who is most prominent in faith takes 16 incalculables. So that way you could say there's a definite grading of the faculties, whereby wisdom is superior to energy, and both wisdom and energy are superior just to faith. But a person who is, say, liberated by faith might be on the path to arhatship, and so that person would have wisdom that is superior to the person who is attained to view, but is just a stream enterer. Even though the stream enterer who is attained to view has superior wisdom, has his predominant faculty is wisdom, but his wisdom is actually inferior to that of the person who is liberated by faith but is on the path to arhatship. Any other questions? Okay, in that case, I think we'll stop for we'll stop for the day, and we'll end with the sharing of the merits. Okay, and we'll have the class next week. And I want to remind people that we have, over the Labor Day weekend, we have a retreat on the Abhidhamma, where you'll get to learn the real meaty, technical details of the Dhamma. And so if you haven't signed up or registered for that, please go to the website of the Buddhist Association and register for the Abhidhamma retreat. We have, during the Abhidhamma retreat, there'll be 5 or 6 periods of meditation a day, and informative lectures and time for discussion. And so you really get to learn, I recall, the nitty-gritty heart of the Dharma during the Abhidhamma retreat. Okay, and then we'll come back. We could come back at 12:15 for a short Q&A session. So any questions on anything that came up today, you can bring them up during the discussion period. Okay, so we'll end with the sharing of the merits. So we share the merits with the devas or deities, the nagas or dragon spirits, and the bhutas, the fair spirits, wishing them to protect the Dhamma, to protect the world, to protect ourselves and others. And especially maybe we dedicate the merit to the people who are afflicted by these terrible wildfires in California, which are burning up. Whole counties are burned up by wildfires. Akasata chabumata deva nagamahitika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanam. Akasata chabumata deva nagamahitika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu te sanam. Akasata chabumata deva nagamahitika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Etavatacham hehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavatacham hehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, etavadacham hehi, sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe satanumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, bhavagopadaya vichayetato, etantare satakayupapanna, rupya rupicha sanya sanino, dukkha pamuchantu, pusantu nivoting. And is there anybody here for the first time? Yeah, if anybody wants to get regular notices about the classes, then you go to the office and you give your name to register for this class. Then each week you'll get the reminder that the class will take place. And so you get, and then if the class is canceled for some reason, then you get the notice of cancellation. Okay, so let us end with 3 half bows to the Buddha.